And welcome, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Genius Insight Biofeedback Hour. And this is for you. It's always free. It's an opportunity for you to participate in the community and an opportunity for you to ask questions. A warm welcome to everyone joining us here today. And I really appreciate people joining us from around the world in order to learn more about this biofeedback revolution, a revolution of empowerment where you can learn about yourself and help others. I want to make sure that you know that you have just a few more spots left for the intensive happening in San Diego at the end of April. So we've had a tremendous amount of interest in this class. It's a 2-day class that starts on Saturday and Sunday, April 28th and 29th. If you are interested in learning in an interactive environment where you could test other people and become proficient and confident on the Genius Insight, now is the time to register so you can get your flight booked and you can get your hotel planned. This is going to be a dynamic, interactive process where you walk away with knowing a system, understanding how to use the Genius for specific goals, and you feel confident where you will be using it day in and day out. So this doesn't happen that often. I don't do in-person classes that often, and we're having a really very talented group join us for this class. So I highly recommend that if you have even an inkling of interest, find out more about it and be sure to join us in San Diego for this class on April 28th and 29th. Now's the best time so you can get your flight booked, so you can get your hotel booked and all that good stuff. I want to thank everyone who joined us for the Genius Insight Summit. It was a smashing success, and thank you so much for being with us. The real purpose of the of the event is to have other people beyond our community be involved. So if you were on the summit, please go and share it with other people. That is the real goal, not for us to self-congratulate ourselves in the community, but to share this information with as many other people as you can. Let them know if they're interested, let them know to get in touch with me. We really want to reach out to other people and expand the community. We really spent a wonderful amount of time preparing and getting all of the wonderful guests. I want to thank Carrie, and I want to thank Tracy, and I want to thank Karen and all the amazing people who joined us. But we really need to share that information with as many people as possible. Can you please share it on your page? If you need a link, a direct link to the video, we can get that for you. And I will definitely be having a meeting for the affiliates. So if you want to share, but you're not really sure what the financial compensation is or how to share the information, I am going to be having an affiliate meeting online coming up soon. It'll be recorded because I realize that people need more education. So I will be more than happy to educate you and to help you in any way that I can. So this is an opportunity for you to ask the questions that you want to ask. So if you have questions, if you want to get a question answered, if you want me to work on you as a client, as a volunteer today, send me your date of birth. We should have your full name in the chat area since you signed on to the webinar. So send me your full name and date of birth. And welcome to everybody who's here. Yes, this is recorded, and we post the recording in our weekly email. So warm welcome to Carol. Carol's waiting for those Quanta capsules. We'll get those to you for sure right after the call, Carol. Because of the demands of the summit, it was really difficult to get back to everyone. So thanks for your patience. Welcome, Floyd. Floyd, haven't seen you in a while. Welcome. Helen is here. Helen, I hope we can talk soon about getting you your Genius. Really excited to get you your system. I know you've been excited about it, so let's talk soon. Hopefully, can get in touch with you today. Sherry from Canada, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate Penelope. I hope you'll be able to join us in person. It would be lovely to meet you in person if you're able to make it. I know you're in that Southern California area. Birgit joining us from Germany. Birgit, thank you so much for being here. It's always really nice to have your presence on the call. And of course, Elfie is joining us from Florida. Karen M, Karen MC, I'll say, joining us from Canada is really nice. I was thinking about you the other day and hoping you're doing well with the system. Okay, Sherry says, why does gonads come up for females? Gonads is not necessarily, I don't know if gonads is strictly a male reference. However, if you do get testosterone or you get ovaries for male gendered people, you guys, you got to remember that the interpretation of biofeedback is not literal. Like, you have to read it in the essence. And if you get that coming up, you can't just conclude like, oh, system's wrong, system made a mistake. What is it that all women have? All women have testosterone. They have small amounts of testosterone. All men have some levels of estrogen, often more because of the exogenous poisonous estrogens in the system. So if you see ovaries for men, or, testes for women and so forth, this is because there's an imbalance in those other hormones for them. That's all it means. We don't have to take it so literally. Read it in the essence. And the other thing to know about biofeedback, you guys, if you do get information that does not make sense to you, you just toss it out. You just toss it out. You just say, okay, I'm going to ignore this piece and I'm going to embrace everything else that is making sense for them. So don't hesitate to just look at something on your Genius and say, this isn't right, and just, let it go, because biofeedback is not a perfect science. It's about reading patterns. And if that's something that doesn't resonate with you, then it's hard to be a good biofeedback practitioner. We can't take everything exactly literally. And they don't do that in the science world either. If only we understood how little of what is discovered in a study. So much information is tossed out. So much information is inaccurate. They take these tiny little improvements in a study, a 1% or 2%, and, rave about how significant it is. So science isn't as perfect either. Okay, so let's see. All right, so Monique, let's get to your person, but I'm going to need, okay, I got the name there. And so Sherry says, well, if the client sees it, they're confused. So Sherry, it's your wonderful job and privilege to explain that to them. That's why generally we don't give out the reports unless we're sure that they will understand it. So, just explain it exactly how I've explained it, which is, this is an energy. And so something in the male energy is out of balance for this person. So I have the exact definition of gonad is an organ that produces gametes, a testes or an ovary. It's only in the slang that gonad is referring strictly to a male's testicles. So it's only in the strict interpretation of it medically is women or men. So that would be the number one thing that you could tell them. The number two thing is that if it comes up that they have male and female hormones, I mean, that's just a reality. And that's a reality that not a lot of people are aware of. Some women don't know that they have testosterone in their body, and some men don't realize that they have estrogen just naturally in their body. So that's an important thing to educate people on as well. it's really why I'm trying to bring, and why I have been for the last 5 years, bring the element of natural health to biofeedback. Because if you're a biofeedback practitioner that doesn't understand natural health, then it is difficult. And I really commend people like yourself, Sherry, and other people who've joined me in my biofeedback practitioner classes, because that's where I impart a lot of the natural health information. And that's something that is really important for you to understand. To be a good biofeedback practitioner to some degree is to understand some basic health information. Kay is joining us from Ontario, Canada. Kay is one of our newer users. And Kay, thank you so much for being here. You're a delight to talk with. So Sherry says they're watching the reflector. So sure, I'd love to continue this conversation and so forth, but please just share with them, like, if gonads comes up, tell them, first of all, that's both sexes, that men have, female hormones, females have male hormones, and tell them, if there's something coming up that you don't understand, just address it with me and I'd be happy to explain it. There are some things that I don't consider, important or priority information. And this is one of the things that you're seeing here that I don't consider priority. And you don't have to have everyone that you're working on watch the reflector. It's totally up to you. If you feel that they'll do okay with it, then great. But you have to remember, and certainly we do that. I do that with a lot of my clients. I let them watch the reflector. So then you have to educate them about what's coming up. It's hard. It's hard for your client to understand everything that's coming up on the Genius. I mean, maybe your session instead, and I haven't really thought about this, but it's a good idea. Maybe the session is watching the water harmonizer. I've tried to get Ryan to do a loop so it could just go on as a loop, but there are other DVDs that you could show that just show sacred geometry. So maybe you just want them to watch sacred geometry for 30 minutes while you work on them. It's really hard to relax if you're really, really caught up in the analytical. So maybe that doesn't work for them. These are things to think about. It's your practice, so you want to shape it the way that works for you. Okay, so and I don't understand the question, Sherry, about the animal panels. Are you running the animal panels for your client? If so, don't do that. If the animal panels come up at the top in your list of libraries, then either don't do a select all and leave them out of the human clients, or don't test them. So don't test your animal panels for humans. You don't have to test every panel that comes up in red. So if you're testing animal panels for humans, that is not going to make a lot of sense to them. So that I don't have any answer for that, except just don't test your animal panels for humans. If I didn't get that right, then let me know. Okay, Monique says that, Monique from Canada, we have a wonderful Canadian presence today. So great. So she says that her grandson has been having chronic rhinitis, which I believe is just a cold or runny nose, since birth. And this is over 2 years now, going on 3 years. Okay, well, 2.5. So how to help him with the app. Okay. So Monique, first thing, let's put in his information. So let me just hide the screen for a second, you guys. So hang in there. How do you help him with the app? So first thing is, you guys remember that anything you do on the app will be helpful. Although that's why, in the classes, in the practitioner classes down in San Diego, we're teaching systems, right? We're teaching systems of being able to work with people. So you know how to approach a particular condition or have something in your pocket to help them. Okay, so let's go here. We've got his information entered. So really anything that you would do, for example, if you would do the meridians would be fantastic. If you would do the if you would do the chakras and you only did the chakras, that would be totally fine. Let's go ahead. I'm assuming that we have the permission to work on your grandson. So I'm relying on that you have the permission to do so, Monique. If that's not the case, then you need to let me know. So we just do a quick check on him. First, so the first thing you could do is you could just not look at anything and just test a specific trinity of things. So you could check, you could do meridians, flower essences, and emotions. So the whole thing with a child being sick and a child being chronically ill, there's usually a huge emotional aspect to that. You know, children are like your companion pets. They're very impressionable. Energies and frequencies are going to be very, very effective for them. And the app should be very effective for them. So you could just do a standard protocol where you only do meridians, flower essences, and emotions, and that would be very effective, and create an imprinted remedy. Tracy spoke so lovely of being a surrogate for another person. So you could create your remedy and you could take the remedy on behalf of your grandson. So that's a new thing that we learned in the Facebook Summit, in the Genius Summit. Then another approach is to just come to the panels that come up for him or her. Okay. When they're younger, it's possible that you'll get more yellows and greens. You might not get the huge red. So you might have to modify your view. You might have to look more at things that are over 600 than strictly the reds and blues. However, if we go down here, we definitely see something interesting. We do see the infection energetic disturbance. So we see fungus at 717. So that's interesting. We do see a biofilm. So let's include those. We do see a virus. We do see a bacteria. So something definitely going on with the immune system. If we've got fungus, bacteria, you know, all of those things. So let's include those in there. There's some type of a nutritional issue going on. So let's include some amino acids that could be really helpful. Glutamine is for the tummy. So it sounds like there's some type of a gut issue going on. Then let's include everything. We can go as high as 200 or we can go down to 600. All right, so sensitivities. Now that's the thing that occurs to me the most, right? I mean, that he maybe is it a he? My grandson. Okay, good. I did get that right. So that there's something in the environment or there's something that he's consuming that is really challenging his gut, and that is leading to the issue with his immune system. Now, even though tomatoes are very high, I doubt it's tomatoes. Perhaps, I don't know if they have any pets in the home. Peanuts, rye, nothing has really struck me that a 2 or 3-year-old would probably be eating these foods. Gluten for sure, soy, milk would be the #1 culprit. So now oftentimes I assume that people are no longer feeding their child milk because it is so detrimental to children on every level. It's, you know, it's full of germs, you know, pus and so forth. It's highly allergic and indigestible. It leads to the majority of ear infections are because of dairy. The majority of constipation in children is because of dairy. If you just give children a glass of milk on the whole, they really it doesn't really appeal to them unless you add something like make it chocolate milk or something. So I don't know if he consumes dairy, but that would be my #1 out of all of these that are coming up here, would be my #1 suspicion. So I definitely, let's just assume that wasn't out of the diet. That would be the #1 thing to take out of the diet, and that would be the #1 way for a child to heal. So we've got that. And then just looking at everything else is very much in the middle. So I would definitely look at body systems, even though it's 637. Let's see what's going on there. Okay, well, this isn't a surprise. We've got respiratory, but interestingly enough, we've got circulatory. And I'm wondering if there's something maybe that we don't know about the child going on circulatory that's, you know, would stop them from having a strong immune system. And then lymphatic, and this is borderline, but I would consider it relevant. So at 212, even though it's green, we see immune and lymphatic. You guys put the pieces together. There's something going on with the immune system. We don't know what it is. Maybe milk is challenging the immune system. Maybe it's an animal in the home or some unknown environmental agent or food a child is eating. However, I think there's a stronger chance than ever that food is some of the mitigating factor here, even if it's not milk. I haven't looked at any of the comments yet, so I'll get some feedback from Monique in just a moment. Okay, so quick other check here. Spiritual protection. I've not been a fan of spiritual protection, but I was working with someone during the summit, and I could not get the dark cloud out of their aura for anything. And so actually going to the spiritual protection was actually significant. I would, without trying to interpret everything like, oh my God, are there dark forces? Oh my God, are there entities? Look, you honestly can't do anything anyway unless you're going to have the child, an exorcist or something. There's probably nothing really like that going on. It could be that someone is very worried about them, or and somebody around them has a negative outlook on life or something like that. So don't overanalyze spiritual protection, but run spiritual protection just the same, especially for difficult cases. I don't always understand everything on spiritual protection, you guys, but I'll tell you what, it does seem to be the energy behind the spiritual protection panel does seem to be pretty powerful for helping with cases where you really don't know what to do and you're having a tough time moving forward. Then definitely include meridians. Meridians are far-reaching and they're powerful. Spleen, pericardium, and triple heater. So let's look at some of the emotions here. Worry, anxiety about the future. Now, children don't necessarily, they have some of these things, especially so young, but typically they're being a sponge and absorbing the emotions of the people around them. So is anybody around them in conflict? Is anyone around them having these emotions? Pericardium, hurt, extreme joy, jealousy, or regret. Triple heater, hopelessness, depression, despair. So there's definitely some emotional stuff going on here, most likely. And we see spleen and triple heater, probably there's a digestive issue. So to me, if when you're doing a case, you guys, and most of you do this anyway, but I want you to do it more consciously than ever. I want you to really say out loud or to yourself that in reading this information, I also want higher power or higher guides to give me silent information that I get from reading the panels. So as I read the panels, I'm going to be able to read through the panels and beyond the panels. So you pick up information, right? That's reading between the lines, information that comes in through your intuition. So really open yourself. Even imagine opening up your crown chakra and allowing all of that information to sort of come in through your angelic guides and through their angelic guides. And all of a sudden you're going to say, I bet that this is about, and fill in the blank, it'll probably be correct. So spleen triple heater, I feel that this is both an environmental or digestive contribution and an emotional piece, either within the child himself or something coming from the people around him. So remember that Abraham Hicks does a wonderful talk even about children being sick, is that at a deeper level, the child feels that there's something that they cannot get, that there's some light or some goal or something that they want to reach for that they just cannot feel that they can get. And that disparity causes the physical condition. So perhaps it's peace among the parents or some other thing that we don't know. Perhaps it's just not drinking milk. We don't know. So keep that in mind. let's check the aura and see what's going on here. And we always want to take our before and after of the aura. And let's get a quick look. The aura always takes a little bit longer than I would like. Okay, looks like we're welcoming in some wonderful energy even as we're doing the testing. And it's interesting, you usually don't see more of the energy sort of moving out, but there is some stuff going on here. There's more of a gray hue here, and there's something going on here. So we'd like to see that move. Let's do our flower essences and our emotions. That's very, very important to the case always, but particularly in children, okay? Boredom, grief, desire, regret, contempt. Now, these don't really sound like 2.5-year-old emotions. Some of them do, probably boredom, but some of them sound like maybe that there's they're taking on some of the parent stuff. Curiosity, surely that sounds like a child's emotion. Terrible twos, pride, depression, shyness, happiness, confusion. When you read the totality of the emotions, you guys, you'll have a pretty crisp picture of that person, amazingly enough. For those of us with ego, human adults, you know, if an adult with you, your client sees anger or rage, they will instantly recoil from that and reject that out of hand because it's considered to be socially unacceptable to have rage and anger. It's considered that the person is less than or somehow not civilized or evolved or something. So I always bring up the emotions if I'm showing them to the client. I am extremely careful. In fact, I don't even do them on demonstrations anymore because people get so upset. They just they're you stuck on that emotional piece. So I'll just say, you know, all of us have emotions. Hey, I have rage. I have anger. You know, I have, you know, whatever it be. We all do. We all have shades of this. And I try to reassure them, although it isn't always successful. People can take it very personally. And then I do give them permission also, going back to talking with Sherry, where I'll just say, you know, if something doesn't feel right on this, then just reject it. It doesn't make sense. Then it is incorrect for you. So just let it go. And so I give them tons of freedom to do that. And then not to rely 100% on the information, but to use the information being given as a tool, as a springboard. All right, so we're going to look at this, you know, crabapple at the top. We want to see if it comes up in Progressive Insights, but just out of interest, that crabapple is the remedy of cleansing. So I do think that there's some food that's interfering, and it could be an emotional cleansing too. And down at the bottom, we're going to see again if Serato is significant in Progressive Insights, but just out of curiosity, Serato is for those who do not have sufficient confidence in themselves to make their own decisions. Well, what 2.5-year-old really does. Okay, so then let's proceed into Progressive Insights and see what sort of percolates to the top here. Bladder, milk, pine, scleranthus, auric protection, dark forces, tomatoes, red chestnut, walnut, isoleucine, mimulus. And this is very common, you guys. You're going to see with people who are the meditators, who are they're very high vibrational, who do energy medicine all the time. They are going to come up with 10 flower essences that want to come and play with them, that are resonant for them. And then children as well will have a lot of flower essences that want to come and work with them because they are so amenable to those. They'll take them in very, very easily. So pine, now remember, this could be the child, could be past life, could be the child innately themselves, their own personality, could be the parents. Pine, for those who blame themselves, even when successful, they think they could have done better, and they're never satisfied with the decisions that they make. Would this remedy help me to stop blaming myself for everything? They even question that. The key words are guilt, self-reproach, apologetic, shame, unworthy, and undeserving. So that's pine. Let's look at scleranthus. Scleranthus, go down. to scleranthus. I'm reading from the original meanings of Bach's flower essences. This is what he said about his own remedies. Those who suffer much from being unable to decide between two things, first one seeming right, then the other. These are usually quiet people and bear difficulty alone, and they are not inclined to discuss it with others. Indecision, imbalance, uncertainty. So again, this may be something he is picking up from the parents. Let's run some energy. Let's look at the comments that we may have had from Monique. I have not checked them yet. Okay, you have the permission, thank goodness. Sent you his aura last Friday. I never received it. Sorry about that. So Monique, let's go to Monique and see if we can get her voice on here. I'm sure probably we cannot. Monique, see if you can unmute yourself. If not, then perhaps you could tell us in the comments, does the boy drink any milk? Do any of these items resonate or seem accurate for him? Could you give us some feedback about the information that has come up? Unfortunately, you have no microphone, so we're unable to do that. But if you could give us some feedback as to the parents or the environment, the diet, if any of that has been on point. I never received the aura, so you may have sent it to Ryan instead of to me, but I never personally received it or received any information about the case. Okay, so we're not getting any feedback from Monique. Thank you, Monique. That's too bad, but we'll go ahead and we'll continue to run his energy and we'll check the aura and then we'll move on to another case. So if you would like to volunteer for a case, if you'd like to send me your date of birth, I would be more than happy to work on you and we'll just go from there. So we'll run a little bit more energy here. We'll check the aura and then we'll move on. All right. So anyone else want to volunteer? Liza, who's hosting the class for us, she says allergy can affect the red blood cells. Kay says, when scanning for bacteria or virus, there's a percentage on the right for each one, a percentage at the bottom. I think you're talking about the entangled insights, Kay. Is that correct? Okay. What my impression of this child is, you guys, that there's something for sure in the gut, in the environment. I'm going purely intuitive. He actually is pulling down some wonderful angelic energy. I feel like there's an emotional issue here. This is an emotional issue that is either coming from the parents or I think November 17, without saying the year, Scorpio, there's a lot of bleed through from past lives. There's a lot of the kid is an emotional sponge. So have to be careful what's going on. I feel like there's turmoil and I don't know, there's emotional turmoil. That's all I'm getting. So that's why I think that we're seeing sort of like a lot of, this is a very, very heavy, there's a lot of heaviness here. So anyway, I don't know if any of that's correct. We're not getting any feedback. So what I would do here is I would run a lot of higher vibrational frequencies to try to bring the heaviness out, to try to move some of the heaviness out. So this is something that I've really found to be helpful after running the main items from Progressive Insights for about 5 or 7 minutes, and then I recheck the aura. What I will then do is move exclusively to the quick zap for some period of time. And this is where I'll be running really very, very coherent, high vibrational items in the quick zap. So I will run the solfeggios. I want to lighten up this aura. I want to move some of the darkness out if I can. And I've found that these high vibrational coherent items are very effective for doing that. I'll run the Nogiers. These are also coherent frequencies. If you don't have my mastery guide, go to my website, get my mastery guide and my basic training program, you guys. In the mastery guide, part of it is a reference guide for when you look up your frequencies, when you find the Nogiers and you don't know what they mean, you go right to my mastery guide and it tells you Paul Nogier was a French physician who discovered coherent frequencies that chime systems into balance. It's like a tuning fork for the brain or a tuning fork for the spine. So we move some of that into here and then we play those coherent frequencies for the person. This will lighten up the aura. This will move out some of the darkness much, much more quickly. So I go back and forth of usually ending the session on these coherent frequencies from the quick zap. So I'm sort of doing the deep gut stuff, the deep, deep, deep stuff from the progressive insights, running all that. If that doesn't really, if that's only bringing up more muck for the person and that we're not really seeing the aura shift, then towards the end of the session, I'm using these coherent frequencies to really lighten up the aura, to really help the person to move out those dark energies and to end on a good note. I like to continue to harmonize as long as it doesn't take hours and hours and hours. But I like to harmonize to the point where I'm seeing some lightening of the aura, where I'm seeing the colors of green, purple, and blue move into the aura, and I feel like we've accomplished our goal. Okay. Okay, so Monique is, you know, that's, her French is her native language. So Monique, you've always spoken great English in your emails, but okay. So it's emotional, let's just say it's emotional. The emotional piece is correct. Excellent. Okay. And so Darlene says, I'd like to volunteer my husband. I like to volunteer my husband. It's hilarious. Okay. But this is actually very, very serious issue. And she does have, we do have permission from the husband. Just think of how many wives would like to volunteer their husbands. So we're going to move into this and we'll talk to Darlene in just a moment. Okay. So I'm going to turn this off, and Monique, send me an email. I think let's talk a little bit about your case a bit more to summarize. And I'm sending you many, many blessings and much love for your grandson. And keep on doing the harmonizing that we talked about today. If you just do those simple things, you are helping him. Now, do I have your husband's name, my dear? I do need his first name. And I don't think that you sent that. It's funny how they just have, and I get this actually often from people where they just send, they're so close to the spouse. Okay, there you do. We do have his name. But I've often had people say, run my husband, and they send the date of birth, but they don't send the husband's first name. So, and then is the last name your last name? Sometimes that's different as well. We're just going to get this in. I assume that he's not on the call, so we're not going to utilize the voice. Now, you can use yourself as a surrogate. When you don't have someone's voice, you can use the following language. You can record the voice and say specifically, it is my intention that my voice frequency represent the frequency of, and then you say the name. So it is my intention that my voice frequency represent the frequency of, and you can say their full name. You can keep saying their full name if you want to really get that resonance in there. So keep saying, here, let me bring the screen back. You can keep saying their full name. It's really up to you. If you resonate with that, then I would definitely recommend it. It's a very, very powerful, and some people work great with that surrogate, being the surrogate for that person, especially if it's an infant. So you just keep saying, it's my intention that my voice represent that frequency. You can also just go without the voice. You can experiment and see which one works best for you. Now, Darlene, what is going on with your husband? So what's the main... what is the main? Okay, unfortunately, we used your last name, but I think it'll work anyway. We do need what is going on with him today. Diabetes type 2. Okay, fantastic. Okay, that's about all we need to know to get started. So let's look at the glands. The glands are in red. Let's look at the glands. Thyroid comes up, the famous gonads. And, you know, looking at this again, going back to Sherry, you can clearly see that the gonads, there's no testicles here, there's no ovary here. The gonads is meant to be an embodiment of both. So look up gonads on Wikipedia. You'll see it is actually meant to be sort of non-assigned. Is supposed to represent both. It's the reproductive organs. So for women, it is what it is. For men, it is what it is. So that's clearly not an error. It's not referring to men exclusively. But it's actually a great question. I'm really, really glad that we talked about it, because that would be confusing. Okay, so I'm just gonna, so you're just looking through this here. Sensitivities, wow, look at sensitivities at a 12. So let's test that. Also, it's so funny, you guys, not to be gender, designated or gender prejudiced, but as I was talking about on the summit, not everyone, I'm sure Dale's very good, Roger's very good at expressing, but when my practice is mostly women, but when I do have men, which often are sent in by the wives, when men come in, their description of what is going on with them, and I sort of blame culture on this, is very, very truncated. Like, so tell me about your symptoms. Well, I've got neck pain. So the women will say, I've got neck pain. It starts in the middle of the night. It's worse with my menses. It's really like, especially when I have weed, it gets worse. And then men, okay, so tell me about the neck pain. Well, I have neck pain. They're very, very, it's not a good thing, but they're very, very terse, meaning just short in describing what's going on with them. And I'll often say, well, for the women, like, what else is going on? Well, I've got a sleep issue, I've got achy knees, and then guys, like, you have neck pain. What else is going on? Nothing. Everything else is fine. And it's not a good thing, because they really underreport everything that's going on with them. So for Darlene's husband, we've got vegetable oil, and I do need to get some people those studies on the oils, but the vegetable oil piece has to come out of the food plan. This is going to block circulation. Okay, so diabetes. Diabetes type 2 is almost completely controllable through lifestyle, not so with diabetes type 1. However, the big mistake in most Western culture has been thinking that sugar is the baddie bad. Now, sugar, as a strict medical interpretation, when you eat sugar, it actually increases your insulin sensitivity. Not that people should eat sugar. However, eating consuming rice, which could break down into sugar, or consuming potatoes, which could break down to sugar, those foods are healthy, even for diabetics. What is not healthy is the vegetable oil, the fats, the dairy, the eggs. These things are not helpful. The fats mostly. Diabetes is eating the rich Western diet is what causes diabetes. And if you're consuming meat, dairy, or oil, that is going to make it very, very difficult for anyone to overcome their diabetes. So a plant-based, low-fat diet that actually includes plentiful amounts of potato, rice, and vegetables would be the way for anyone to move into. But we do see sensitivity to vegetable oil, sugar, and egg. Now, this brings up something really, really important, you guys. When you see sensitivities, it's not always strictly an energetic check of sensitivities could check for strict allergies, but it also could check to say, is this food the right food for this person at this time? Or is it an irritant to the person? So I feel like part of this communication is that the vegetable oil, the sugar, the egg may not be strict sensitivities or strict allergies, but they're not foods that are beneficial for this person given their condition. Diabetes is a natural process in the body, that probably sounds strange. Diabetes is when insulin can no longer drive sugar into the cells. You guys, you eat food, it goes in your tum-tum. The food is in your tum-tum, it then everything breaks down, it begins to migrate. As it breaks down, things migrate into the bloodstream. When glucose or sugar is in the bloodstream, it must be temporary. The presence of insulin unlocks a key which drives the blood sugar into the cells. The blood is a temporary and dangerous place for the glucose to stay. So it's always eat the food, release the insulin, drive the glucose into the cells, period, end of story. However, if a person consumes, and think about this, an excess of calories, they eat the food, get the insulin. If there's a lot of calories, more insulin is required. So now we're going to drive the insulin, get the glucose, use the insulin to unlock a key, drive the glucose into the cells. However, at some point, if the person eats so many calories, we don't think about the people, if you've ever seen people in your life who are 400 pounds, 500 pounds, 600 pounds. These people do not have the ability to have that diabetic protection in the same way, because the body will actually go into diabetes as a saving grace mechanism. If we continued to put all of that blood sugar into the cells, the person would get infinitely fat. They would just, which is why, unfortunately, some of the diabetic medications are extremely unhelpful. So they go to the doctor gives them the sulfonylurea or the diabetic medication, and now they're way more efficient. They've overridden that natural protection, and the natural protection is saying, reduce your caloric intake, please. The medication overrides that and takes away the need for them to make the lifestyle medication, the lifestyle adjustment, and just more efficiently puts sugar now into the cells. Now, the interesting thing is that the doctor says, you need to lose weight. Here, take this diabetic medication, and hey, patient, go away and lose weight. Be a good person. They give them a sulfonylurea or diabetic medication, which more efficiently helps them to get the insulin to drive the sugar into the cells, which causes them to gain weight, because insulin is a storage mechanism. It causes you to gain weight, which is what the temporary diabetes is trying to get you to override and not drive any more sugar into the cells. Now you have this medication that overrides that. So the person goes away, dutifully takes the medication, maybe doesn't make a lifestyle change, and they come back and they're gaining weight. And they're 10 pounds heavier because the body is now being overridden to do that thing. And the doctor is, hey, patient, what's wrong with you? I told you to go away and lose weight. Well, the medication is making that nearly impossible. So a low-fat, plant-based diet is absolutely key in these cases and will almost inevitably resolve the problem and resolve the need for any type of glucose regulator, whether it be strictly insulin or just be an oral glucophage. Okay, so let's go to libraries and let's add the blood sugar libraries and take a look at those. So let's go back here to the libraries, take a look here. What we're going to need to do is we do all the libraries. It just makes it easier. There's going to be weird ones that come to the top. Well, actually, these all make sense, but we're going to need, actually, it's going to switch on us. So now what we do is we just type in the word blood sugar. And notice I really don't have diabetes panels. I have blood sugar panels. So hopefully they're here. Blood sugar assessment. So let's see what the blood sugar assessment says. Chromium deficiency, which helps with the regulation of sugar. C-reactive protein, which means that there's high levels of inflammation. Adipose blocking insulin receptors. Okay, what this means is adipose is blocking the insulin receptors. Means one of two things, or maybe both. The person needs to lose weight because the fat cells are literally blocking the insulin receptors, so insulin cannot get to the receptors. But it could also mean that the consumption of vegetable oil, coconut oil, a hamburger, a bowl of ice cream, it's not the sugar, it's the fat. That the fat that they're taking in is also blocking the insulin receptors. Although this strictly says adipose, which would mean the fat in the body, but it could also be that the fat they're consuming is blocking the insulin receptors. Blood sugar dysregulation, tell us something we don't know. Inflammation matches with the C-reactive protein. Insulin resistance, I'm going to go right down to 600. Even though it's not red, 600 is my boundary here that I consider to be important or significant, and which I retest in Progressive Insights. Homocysteine also, so he does have inflammation and advanced glycation end products. This does happen for when you're taking in carbohydrate-based foods, but especially more processed carbohydrates. Your body only processes them, is only able to process that processed carbohydrate, I guess, as an AGE, which AGE means aging. So wrinkles, liver spots, things like that. So what does this mean? It means that my recommendation, if this was my patient, of course, biofeedback will be the catalyst. Now, I don't think that Fiona is on the call today, but Fiona did a wonderful talk about addiction. She did, oh, there she is. You are here, my dear. So she did a wonderful talk about addiction where the person was unable to make the change. But when they received the biofeedback was a catalyst. So running your biofeedback, Darlene, is very, very important because that will be the energetic catalyst that may allow him to begin to make the lifestyle changes. And I could be totally wrong. Maybe he's already made all these lifestyle changes. Maybe he's eating a perfect plant food, low-fat diet. But if he's not, or food plan, I should say, then this may inspire him to eat things that will more be supportive. If you don't have it already, please go find the Dr. Neil Barnard book about diabetes type 2. He literally wrote the book and did all the studies showing that a low-fat, plant-based diet that does contain rice, potatoes, vegetables, and some fruit is extremely effective. It's not the low-carb plan, you guys, because low-carb plans will ultimately result in people consuming too much fat to compensate, and they will not feel satisfied. Let's look at blood sugar treatment and see what comes up here. Fenugreek. Fenugreek is a wonderful, these are seeds, you guys, that you can either sprout or you can actually boil them, which is called a decoction. You boil them, drain the tea, cool it, and drink it. It's very good for weight loss. It's very good for excess in the body. It's an Ayurvedic herb. So if there's excess in the body, this can be very, very helpful. Bitter melon is very good for regulating blood sugar. Very, very good. You should check into that for sure. Red sage root, more exercise. I'm going to have to make a note and do this right after class to take this off. Okay, so to take the autoimmune paleo, I just don't agree with it anymore, but some of the things are good. It does make people eat better. Vanadium is an herb for blood sugar. Holy basil is for adrenal health. Chromium we saw before. Gluten-free. Maitake is a mushroom. Salacia root is good for blood sugar, pancreatic enzymes. It's interesting that the enzymes are the exocrine factor. So the enzymes are really regulating the digestive piece. But on the other side of the pancreas, not really the other side, but the other part of the pancreas is the endocrine function. And the endocrine function is the one that regulates the blood sugar. But what is interesting is sometimes we see that when the pancreas is stressed, that both the exocrine and the endocrine, so if you have an endocrine imbalance that is related to the pancreas, the exocrine function may also be fatigued or affected in some way. It's kind of interesting. Let's look at this other panel that I have here, which is about frequency. Blood sugar has an emotional aspect, right? The most obvious one is unable to embrace or absorb the sweetness of life. So that's one possibility. Let's just see if there's anything else here. These are energetics related to diabetes and blood sugar. So harmonious digestion. So there's digestion could be improved to improve the blood sugar. The metabolic functions of my body are harmonious. Optimal pancreatic function, go down to the bottom here. Optimal glucose. So I derive sweetness of life. So this is the opposite. It means that he's not really, I'm glad I don't know your dear husband because I can speak so objectively, and usually when the patient is present, we're very, very cautious, so I can speak very freely. But it's saying, the biofeedback at least is saying that to some degree he's not deriving sweetness from life. You might look at him and you might be like, no, come on, he loves life, you know, but there's maybe a subconscious part where he's not totally deriving some sweetness from some aspect of life. Let's include this one, healthy insulin sensitivity. Then what I would do is, you guys know the drill, but it is very important, is I would absolutely include your flower essences and your emotions. So let's just get flower essences, a few of them in there because we're getting tight for time. Okay, so mimulus and vine, rock water, just include them. So what you could do is, if you guys are in partnership and it feels okay, you could do surrogate remedy for him, but he should probably take the remedy. You can make a water remedy for him, have him take it twice a day. That's a great way to do it. Darlene, I'm not sure if you got the remedy plate, so you might want to go on my website and get the remedy plate if you did not get it initially. At the top is still insulin resistance, rock water, thymus, so immune piece going on here. He's amenable or receptive to medicinal mushrooms like maitake, so that could make a difference. Chromium deficiency, saying that the chromium, the mineral, we know that that's literally glucose tolerance factor. So glucose tolerance factor is related to chromium. So if he doesn't, he could be taking chromium, but that's not the answer. The answer is full diet and lifestyle change. So we've got a bunch of stuff here. Let's run some frequencies. And rock water is those who are very strict in their way of living. They deny themselves many of the joys and pleasures of life. So if that was true, and it doesn't have to be, it could be totally false for him, but if it was true, that would make sense for the whole not connecting with the sweetness of life. And that's a very simple explanation. It might just be one part of who this person is. So those are very strict in their way of living. They deny themselves the many joys and pleasures of life because they consider it might interfere with their work. Can understand that. They are hard masters to themselves. They wish to be well and strong and active and will do anything which they believe will keep them so. They hope to be better examples which will appeal to others who may follow their ideals and be better as a result. You know, everybody's trying to do their best, you guys. These are not criticisms. They're just energies that are asking to be released and harmonized. That's why we read them. When we read them in the presence of the client who recognizes their truth, they begin to discharge. They begin to release. They begin to unwind that particular wound. Remember that Bach used these as literally physical remedies. When he used the frequency of these for a person who was sick, they got better because the sickness was only an expression of the emotions that were locked up within them. Rock water, self-repression, self-denial, self-perfection, overwork, self-sacrificing, opinionated. So let's see some of the comments from Darlene. Says he's at a good weight and a BMI. I'm running the Genius every day. So even though it says he's at a good weight or BMI, I would go and recheck that. I'm thinking that even though he looks good and he looks good on the scale, that it's not totally completely accurate, but I could be wrong. There's some adipose somewhere that may be covering up the ability to be insulin resistant. You know, if he was perfectly fine, then would you be coming on and talking about the diabetes? Something's going on there, but who knows? That's totally for you to think about. So there's depression. So depression, she says there's depression there. So what is the depression about? The depression is always the suppression, right, of some type of expression of the energy of emotion. So, you know, what is going on there? Okay, so let's take one final look at the aura. I hope some of that information was helpful to you, Darlene, and blessings and healing to him and to your family always, of course. And thank you for allowing us to learn more about diabetes and some of the things going on with him that helps us all to be better practitioners. And we truly, truly appreciate it. You guys do get signed up for the class for the intensive if you want, so you can get one of the last spots available. Oh, we did pretty good. We did pretty good for him. So that looks pretty nice. There's a little bit of darkness over here. I'll continue to run some frequencies for him. I'll have the weekly email hopefully out today. I'm sending you much, much love and appreciation, you guys. Thank you for all you do to uplift the lives of everyone around you. And thanks again, Tracy and Carrie and Fiona and everyone who participated, Karen, of course, in the class, in the summit. Thank you. And you can go back to Facebook where you watch the summit and share it with everybody you know. So you can share that as many times as you like. It's there to watch as many times as you like. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Take care and be well. Bye-bye for now.